Synthesizers are an important part of many songs, whether they take the lead part or orchestrate the rest of the instrumentation. Hello there, I'm Thomas from She Died in a Parking Lot. In this video I'm diving into how to mix synth, use layers to get a more fuller sound, and how synth complement other instruments in my cover of Shades. I'll also drop a few ideas to create sound design for your transition. Let's get to it! Let's take a look at the lead synthesizers. The first one is the Question synthesizer. I used Ep.5 from UE. There's a bit of EQ for tone shaping right there. I used Replica for the delay. Which is a nice delay. And also used GST Skybox for a bit of reverb. Then I have two layered synth. There is the first one, which is more like a bell type of synth. Also Ep.5 from UE with a bit of EQ. And then a gain plugin for volume automation, which I basically used just to get rid of the reverb when the instrument is not playing. And the second layered synth right there, also Ep.5 from UE, which I tweaked a bit. EQ for tone shaping. SFXs Refract from Arpeggiated. Which adds a bit of chorus, stereo spreads, and a bit of saturation as well. Then Replica again for the delay. GST Skybox for the reverb. Q3 just to get rid of the high end right there. And also some gain for automation just right there. So if we listen to both synths together, and with the first one, then on their bus there is an LA2 compressor just to keep the dynamic even between those synthesizers. Then I used Howard Benson vocals, but I only used the width, echo, and space modules. Then I added fresh air to add some sparkles to the top end. Really helped the synths cut through the mix. And finally, there are two compressors which are sidechained to the kick and the snare. I felt the kick and the snare were a bit buried with the synthesizer, so it's just to prevent that and to keep them up front. It's not that much of a ducking, it's just like 1 or 2 decibels. Then I forgot to speak about this synthesizer. which orchestrate a bit together and play all the lead parts. It comes from Alchemy and it sounds like that. There is just a bit of EQ on it. Just like a bandpass effect, then a bit of saturation. And just a bit more of EQ just to get rid of that 10K area. I really love retro synth style synthesizers. They really have like a vibe on their own, but modern ones offer way more flexibility. A lot of you probably use Serum or Massive or something like that, so let me know in the comments what's your to-go synth. And I'll also show you the other synth I have on my mix. Those are the tracks right there. As you can see on the bus, there is also just 2 compressors, which are also sidechained to the kick and the snare right there. And also at the beginning, there is the noise FX pad. Comes from Alchemy. There is just a bit of EQ to cut some low end. Just to be sure I have nothing on the sub. And there is a bit of gain for volume automation. That's pretty much it for this one. On some verses, I also have this night drive synth, which comes from retro synth. If I go up a bit, you'll see there is a transpose MIDI plugin and an arpeggiator as well. There's just a bit of processing, a bit of EQ. Compression to keep the dynamic even. A bit of tape delay. Oh yeah, here I used Pancake 2 to make it spread automatically on the stereo. Then a bit of EQ just to get rid of the low and sub frequencies. A bit of saturation and compression. It helped push it a bit more through the mix. And for that, I also add GST maximizer with a bit of clipping and exciting. And then on the metal break, I have like a Coher Alchemy preset, which sounds like that. It's a bit low, so I think the gain here is just for volume. There we go. A bit of compression for the dynamic. EQ for mix purposes and tone shaping, cutting some frequencies I didn't like and boost a bit of mids. Actually emphasize the tone of the voices, then a bit of saturation to get rid of the high end and to saturate a bit the voices to cut a bit more through the mix. A bit more of EQ just to cut the mids a bit. And then I also have a gain plugin. Guess what? For volume automation. Because the reverb never stops. And after that, I have the same idea here. And it's the same preset, I think, from Alchemy, but it's more gated. And it's the same thing. I have the gain for more volume. Then I put ozone, but to center it a bit more, so it's a bit more mono. And it doesn't clash with the guitars that are really the important part right there on the metal break. Then I think it's the same processing as the other one. So same EQ. GST EAT. Pro Q3. And the gain to finally stop that reverb. Finally, let's go through some sound effects I have for the song. They're from Logic or from sound banks I already had. They all go through the same bus, which has nothing on it, so it's just a folder. There is this one with just a bit of EQ. It goes with a hit right there, which also have a bit of EQ, and a sub right there. So if you listen to all three together, it gives you that. Then there is the same type of whoosh with a bit of a different EQ. Goes also with the hits right there. Same thing here. Then there's the sound design just before the metal break. So there is a breath sample from Alchemy, which has a bit of EQ. And also a bit of imaging to spread it on the stereo. Then there is this breath. If you put some reverb on it with chroma, gives you that. A bit of imaging as well. So it's a bit more centered. And a bit of EQ. If you bounce that and reverse it, you have a transition for your breath. I think I put a bit of pitch shifting. Not sure why, but here it is. And if you bounce that and stretch it a bit, you have this. And finally, all together. I really wanted to create a bit of stereo contrast, so you have the first breath, which is really on the side, then the last one on the middle. That way you really have a stereo contrast with the metal break. And there is also a hit when the metal break starts. A bit later on the metal break, just before the full metal blast, there is a riser synth, which comes from Alchemy as well, on the 80s sync lead. And the pitch is just automated with the pitch wheel. A bit more of processing as well, vocal multiplier. And a bit of EQ. There is also a bit of fire sound design. Below that, just a bit of EQ to get rid of the subs. And if you listen to all that together, same thing at the end. And that ends it with a boom. However, a good synth part or transition are nothing without a good structure or arrangement. If you want to know more about that, I've dedicated a separate video on how I made my cover of Chase. Let me know what you think or if you have any questions in the comments. And subscribe to the channel for more music content. Thank you for joining, I'll see you soon.